Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Anything Blows. My name's Endridika, and today I'm proud to be at Box Park Croydon for the Chris Billam versus Richard Riakporhe fight, and talking about that fight there. Before we get onto it, Andy Clarke, how you doing, my man?
Good, yeah, very well, thanks. You?
Yeah, great. How's the book been selling, and was it number 2 on Amazon?
Yeah, it was. It was at number 1 for a bit. It's still kind of up there. I don't know how many copies you need to sell a day to stay high in the charts, but people are obviously buying it. Yeah, it's fun. You know, it's good fun. Just the promotional side of it. I've been enjoying it. So yeah, I enjoyed launch day up. I've been enjoying it since.
I love to hear that. And then talk about that there. How much praise have you received from it? And obviously, at last media day when I interviewed you, and Johnny Clark said, "Is there an audio version? Is there an audio version?"
Yeah, there is. I recorded that probably in March. I think at the end of March. So it's me doing it. If people can bear that. So there is. Yeah, there is. There's hardback, audible. I think the back comes out in a few months. I think. Yeah, it's available. Amazon's the easiest place to buy it online, but it'll be in shops now too.
And I love to hear it, and the praise is unreal because you're having fighters repost it as well.
Yeah, I mean that's because it's a small world, this sport. You know, people are very generous when it comes to supporting each other. So not everybody who's bigged it up has actually read it.
Yeah.
But they kind of trust me that it'll be decent enough that they're happy to do it. So that's been really good fun. I've got a few willing victims I can pounce on inside today.
Yeah,
I think. Just
few big names.
Just to keep that train moving a bit, yeah.
100%. And then we talk about that there, the 5v5, Queensbury versus Matchroom. And did you see it being 5-0? Did you see it being 10-0? Or was that just, would you say it was unexpected, or was it a good performance from Queensbury, or a poor performance from Matchroom? How do you break it down?
I think it was just a really good performance from the Queensbury fighters. I didn't pick 5-0. I thought my picks were. I picked Craig Richards against Willie Hutchinson because he just had a much greater body of work. I think you would have had to have made him favourite for that fight. But I always felt that there was a big performance in Hutchinson because I watched him as an amateur and he's good. And I thought he was brilliant actually. Such a good performance to win that fight. I picked Nick Ball against Ray Ford, but I thought it'd be really close, and it was close. I thought Nick Ball did enough, so I was relieved when he got it after what happened to him against Ray Vargas. I picked Hamza Shiraz against Austin Williams. Again, I thought that was a good fight. There was a really good performance from Shiraz. Williams hung in there, showed a lot of toughness. I fancied Dubois against Hrgovic. He was my kind of
Wild card.
Wild card outside bet. Because logically you would pick Hrgovic, but I fancied Dubois because I just knew he'd taken an awful lot from that win against Jarrell Miller. So, but again, there was just a fantastic performance, and those 4 wins for Queensbury, those 4 fighters. Those are 4 guys who have been with Queensbury
From the start of their career.
From the start. I think Nick Ball maybe wasn't right from the very start, but pretty early on. So they are homegrown, talent-spotted kind of people. So I think Frank Warren and all of the team there will take an enormous amount of satisfaction from that. And then Chang beating Wilder, I couldn't make my mind up all week what I thought would happen there. I'd like to see Wilder retire now. I think the Bronze Bomber has left the building. His decision, obviously, but I'm a fan, and I would just love to see him hang them up now and just after a little period of time, because they all struggle in the early stages of retirement. Just look back with a lot of satisfaction at what he's achieved.
100%. And out of the whole card, which was the fight you were most impressed with, and which was your favourite fight?
That's a good question, that.
Thanks.
It's a good question because they were all really good to watch. I think Dubois, that was a massive win for him, a huge win for him, which now sets him up for a fight with Joshua. So that was probably performance of the night. Shiraz a close second probably. The fight that I enjoyed the most was probably Nick Ball Ray Ford because that was really close, back and forth, you know, to and fro. That was an excellent fight.
Would this have been your favourite Saudi experience so far?
Yeah, maybe one off. I mean, Fury versus Usyk will be at the top because of just the fight and how big it was and how good it was, and just how big that week got as the days tick by. I've enjoyed it every time I've been over there. Fury and Ngannou was something different. In the end, turned out to be different to how we thought it would be. But just during the week, you know, it felt big. It's not not going anywhere, that whole enterprise. They've got a lot of plans, and you would put money on them realising those plans, because that's, when they put their mind to something, it generally tends to happen.
Love to hear it. Now let's go on to why we're here today. We're in South London, and you've got two South London boys on the card, correct me if I'm wrong. You've got Richard Riakporhe and Isaac Chamberlain. We're going to kick off with the the card. Out of Will Jones' gym, out of the Edge gym, you've got Mitchell Fearson making Frearson, I believe it is. He's just been added on last minute. I believe he said started the first week of camp and ended the first week of camp. What do you make of him?
I've seen him a bit actually, Mitch. He's a decent fighter. Again, he's a bit of a gym rat. He stays in the gym. He works hard. He knows that this will be a big opportunity. I don't expect him to freeze on the night or anything like that. He's been on some decent shows. I expect a good performance from him.
And then we move on to the heavyweights. Who doesn't love a heavyweight dust-up? Devon Miller versus Edwin Mascara.
I don't really know too much about that one, I must confess. It's not one of the fights that I'm covering myself, so yeah, I can't really enlighten you much on that one.
And then we go on to the girl that's stealing the scene in women's sport. And we're going on to a woman who is stealing the show in boxing, Francesca Hennessy. She's fighting Dorota Norek, a woman with a winning record in a full professional contest.
Yeah, she's been good. She's been great to watch. Bradley Ski isn't the kind of guy who's going to take somebody on unless he feels they can really do something. They've got a great connection, and she's just very at ease with the whole situation. That's what's been impressive too. The ability level looks to be good. We need to see her tested, but there's no great rush for that because it's early stages. But yeah, there's a lot to like about this overall.
And another South London boy, sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 on the card now. Dan Aziz making his comeback fight since the Boatsi lost against her boy Sepp, who's 12-2.
Yeah, good fight for Dan this. I saw Sepp in the amateurs a lot. He's knocking on a bit now. He's 38, but he was a vastly experienced international amateur. Boxed in the Olympics, had probably about 30 fights in WSB, which was a 5-3-minute round format, like pro fights basically. So he did a lot there. Probably turned pro with a few miles on the clock. But this is kind of almost the last throw of the dice for him. If he wants to get back or make an impact at the higher end of the division, he needs to beat Dan Aziz. So this is huge for him. Aziz is perfectly aware of it. I spoke to him about it about a week ago. But it's a good fight for him because he can't afford and won't be able to take his eye off the ball at all with this guy.
And I believe that's an 8-round contest. So now moving on, it's been stealing the last press conference, it's been stealing this press conference. Ben Whittaker versus Ezra Arienko, the African King. And talk about this there, 7-0 versus 12-0. It's now for the IBF International Light Heavyweight title.
Yeah, so they got a ranking belt for it, which is good. That'll be good for Whittaker if he gets a top 15 ranking with a win, and I do expect him to win. Ezra has managed to get himself this fight, and that's a lot of what this business is about. You need to back yourself, you need to be a bit creative at times. From what I've seen of them, I think there's quite a big gulf between the pair of them in terms of ability, and Whittaker, as we know, looks to have the tools to go a long way, and it's always good to see him because the Whittaker fight has become an event now. I'm hearing all sorts about the plans for the ring war, so a stadium fight, he is the man for that kind of setting.
I'd love to hear it. Now going on to your co-main event, it was meant to be Isaac Chamberlain versus Mikhail Sislak. It has now changed to Jack Massey out of Gallagher's gym. Isaac Chamberlain versus Jack Massey for the Commonwealth. I didn't realise that was there. And now the EBU Cruiserweight title.
Yes, this is a good fight because Sislak was injured, so he had to pull out. Strong European champion, that would have been a tough fight for Chamberlain, who gave up that British title rather than fight Chev Clarke because he wanted to go down the European route. What did you make
about Chev and Elisaro?
Good win for Chev Clarke. I made him the favourite in that fight, but I thought he took care of it really well. He's looked really good as a pro, Chev Clarke. I think he's made really good progress and will be up towards the top end of that division, I think, before too long. But this is a hard fight for both of these two. Massey was a good amateur. He had that points to feed against Riakporhe, which was a close fight. He showed big balls taking that fight at heavyweight against Joseph Barker. I was worried for him because Barker at the time, and obviously now, he's a top 5 heavyweight now. At the time he was kind of a top 10 heavyweight. And I thought that he might get knocked out, to be honest, because I could think of somebody jumping up a weight and taking on somebody like that in their first fight at heavyweight. But he did really well, and he won some rounds. He rolled the dice to get his name back out there, and I was relieved, to be honest, to see him get a positive outcome from it. It's taken a while for him to land a big fight off the back of it, but this is that fight now. and he knows that he needs to deliver. As for Isaac, he's won some titles now, he's won some big fights, but he wants to get up towards world title level. It's a great fight, and difficult to call it.
And it is a wild card on the night. So now, going on to your main event, Chris Billam Smith versus Richard Riakporhe. And as I said to Chris, do you feel like the away fighter? On paper, he may be the away fighter because he is in South London, but he is the mandatory. He has a mandatory defence against Richard Riakporhe. Richard being the only man on his record to defeat him. So again, the bookies may have it for Richard in that regard. Would you break it down? And it's a spectacle, isn't it?
It is, and I make it a really close fight. The bookmakers' odds currently have Riakporhe a heavy favourite, which flies in the face of most kind of logic, I would say, because he won that first fight, and that means something. It will certainly mean something to him, but that was a long time ago, and they're both different now. And if you're Billam Smith, you can legitimately just dismiss that because they've both improved an awful lot since then. And Billam Smith is the champion. He's the one who's been in really deep. And Richard as yet hasn't. That's to his credit, but that fight against Billam Smith, the first one, was the fight where he was probably been tested more than any other. He went 12 rounds of massive for the British title. But Chris has kind of been in the trenches. He's walked through the fire to win that title against Okoli. So I think this is a very interesting one because Riakporhe really does punch very hard. The kind of power that could take anyone out if he catches you right. So that could happen. That's a possibility. That could happen. But if we get into the second half of the fight, and Billam Smith's still in there, and he's working at that nice tempo that he likes to, and making Riakporhe work hard, then I think Riakporhe might find that very, very difficult towards the end because stamina-wise, we haven't seen him have to do that. Now that doesn't mean he can't do it, but we haven't seen him have to do that. So I think it's a very, very even fight, difficult fight to call.
And just before I let you go, talk about that. A stadium fight. Richard hasn't done it. Chris has done it. He's been the mandatory challenger. He's gone against a former teammate. He's gone in his home stadium. Does that put more pressure at you being at home and going for the world title? Or is that just, do you embrace it all, sink it in, take it in, and it feels like the night's set for you?
Well, it's both, but it's a kind of it's a double-edged sword, really. You need to walk that tightrope whereby you are feeling the pressure, because that will inspire you to greater heights, where you do feel the expectation, where you do have that fear of not wanting to let everybody down, because that can drive you on. But you also need to be completely confident in your surroundings and completely convinced that you're going to win. So it's a difficult balance they need to strike. But the occasion is another question mark for Riakporhe, which he's not been in this kind of situation before. Again, it doesn't mean he won't be able to handle it. Personally, I feel like he will. I don't think that will be a problem for him. But every now and again, you see somebody just freeze a bit on the night. It can happen. It's happened to plenty of people, and that still happen to plenty of people in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Clarke, what's the rest of the fans, not only for this show, but your fans in general and everyone that's searched for the book so far?
Just keep enjoying the fights. Get down to your local fights as often as you can. Support your amateur clubs if you can, and just enjoy the summer, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, main man Andy Clarke, and it is coming home in the summer, God willing.